Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay.
Great.
Tester, you want to take the lead and then maybe bounce it over to Elena?
Sure. So we'll call the meeting to order at 10:05 a.m. Thanks everyone for being here. So at the last meeting, we had a draft survey that we agreed needed more work, and Elena offered to take it on. Thank you, Elena, and your team. She created a first draft that was sent out a few weeks back. The sheriff did have some input to try and make sure we were focusing on everything, not just on what people were dissatisfied with, but also what the sheriff's office and other police agencies are doing well. So Elena and her team took that feedback and created a second draft, which was also sent out to this committee. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review it. And today I'll turn it over to Elena to kind of briefly go over the survey. I don't know that we have to go line by line because everyone's had it in advance. I think it can be more, questions, comments, concerns. So Elena, do you want to give just a brief overview of how you got to this draft, and then we'll see if anyone has any changes?
Sure. So thank you. One is when we looked at the draft that we had before, we realized that it may not be as all encompassing. And since one of the issues during our various communications is that this is about gathering information, statistics, and overall um, issues that maybe arise. So one, we try to create a survey that can be utilized, and this can be created into kind of an electronic survey that can be done online. That people can go in and they can just click, 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 click as a drop-down survey. We believe that that can be done relatively easy. When we were developing this survey, both myself and Michaela in our office, as we started to work on this, I started with some research on what are other people doing across the country. You don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel. And so one of the ones that we worked off of and then started to pull others in between were um, one that was developed by Boston. And Boston did a really, really good survey in conjunction with several other agencies. And then that was kind of used as a backdrop. And then we pulled in what other people were doing across the country. So what we were trying to do was break it up into overall categories. First, your interactions with, and you'll see it's written in a way that can be used for officer or deputy. Um, and not only their interactions, but also dealing with administrative staff. We all know that sometimes your interaction can be negative because of how someone handles a phone call with you. We also wanted to get procedural justice, which is an overall arching theme, and then finally some general demographics, which we think are important. This survey would be utilized in a way that if an individual had interactions with several agencies, they would be required to fill out the survey for each agency that they interacted with. Um, and then, as Supervisor Hoagland indicated earlier in the previous meeting, that we see no reason why, once this information is gathered, that we can't utilize some type of service like a Survey Monkey or others that can give you, pie chart understanding of the information that has been gathered. But we had hoped that this would really give a good overview. Now, as Supervisor Hoagland indicated, the sheriff had raised the question of, hey, are we just focusing on the negative and can we make these questions more open-ended? And so as a result, we didn't put, if you chose somewhat dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, please comment. We just said, please explain about your interaction if you so choose. And we all know that some people will and some people won't, but we'll be able to get a better understanding of it as of what the basis of their interaction based on some of these initial questions. So I will leave it at that, and we take no personal ownership in it. And if people have changes, we're obviously open to whatever this committee wants to have done.
Dave.
Thank you. On race, we're missing category for Swana people, Southwest Asia, North Africa, or Middle East, North Africa.
Dave, what question are you on? Just tell me what question so I can make notes.
It's in the demographics section. Section
You can tell
5,
us page.
demographics. There's gender, there's age, there's race.
Okay, and which one does the committee want added to this? And then just tell me what we should add.
Middle East / North Africa and other.
But Is that considered, would that come under race or location of,
Race.
Sherry, can we see that on the
What page is that on, Elena?
survey?
Second to last page,
Okay.
section 5, demographics.
and just, can you say it again for me, Dave? Middle East, North Africa, other?
That's two categories: Middle East / North Africa, and a second category of other.
Okay. I'm happy to add it. I'll defer to this committee.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think other is important because prefer not to answer is I don't want to tell you versus I don't fit into one of those categories. And I'm fine with the Middle East / North Africa.
All right, I'm making notes for changes as we go here.
And that will be soon, we believe, a demographic category in all state data collection coming up. There's a law pending.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Would it make sense, Elena, to have pages like when we were like, what page is that on? Would it make sense at the bottom to have page 1 of 7, page 2 of 7?
We could do that, but what I was thinking of is that once we put this, upload this onto like a survey,
Monkey.
that's not going to apply, but for purposes of this review, we can clearly do that without it being an issue. But I think once we load it onto Survey Monkey, it'll be each section.
Yep.
Each one of these articles. So it'll be article 1 through 5.
I was also picturing having paper surveys around for people that don't have computers, some of our elderly population. So maybe for the paper, I agree with the Survey Monkey section. It's going to be demographics. You're going to fill it. You're going to hit next. It's going to bring you to the next section. But
We'll
for,
put page numbers.
for
You
the
got it.
paper version, it might be good to have page numbers.
Okay, we can do that. No problem.
Any other changes or questions from committee members? Gary?
So, excuse me, just for the record, I have to jump off this meeting at 11 o'clock. On the very first page, not a big deal, but there's a typo between January 15th and March 1st.
Oh, yes, there is. Thank you very much.
Okay. So does anybody think that we should include HPD as not being part of the survey like you did with the state police?
Yeah.
Can we see that where that is as well, please?
Gary,
On page
That's on the
1.
first
here.
page.
Gary, I was going to suggest it as well, and also the Village of Chatham.
I think it makes sense to list all agencies that are in Columbia County that aren't included, which I think would be New York State Police, Hudson Police Department, and Village of
Yeah,
Chatham.
that's fine. I'm good with that.
And I have one more question.
What about Philmont?
Philmont's in
Philmont,
the
is that?
There-
Philmont
there-
is part.
That's on
Philmont's
there,
part of
right?
it.
Yeah.
So there's only 3 agencies not covered. Just, I want to make sure I get it complete.
It looks like there's 7 agencies total. Is that correct, Sheriff? Within Columbia County, 7 agencies? And 4 are included.
If you're not counting DEC and ENCON police, the forest rangers, they're all law enforcement agencies in one way or another. Maybe this does not include state law enforcement agencies, Village of Chatham or Hudson Police. Maybe that would be a coverall.
Say that. So New York State Police, any other New York State law enforcement agency?
Yeah, you could probably just change the state police to New York State law enforcement agencies and/or Village of Chatham and Hudson PD.
Can and I don't mean to sound crazy, but do you think if you say New York State law enforcement, people are going to associate that with the state police? That's my only concern.
List them separately. It's fine. It doesn't matter. The more clear it is, the better.
Yeah, I think New York State Police, any other New York State law agencies, Hudson Police Department or Village of Chatham.
Okay, that's what we have. Great.
So I do have one more question if I can.
Go ahead.
It's the last sentence in the very first paragraph. I might be the only one confused on that. So it says that the survey would be available January 15th through March 1st. Now, is that is that an annual collection all year round? And so I'm confused. Will this survey only be available to the community during this period of time?
That was the
That's-
goal. So we have the complaint process that we did at last meetings that is, year round. If I have an issue and I want to do that complaint process, this is more of a once a year, how's your overall satisfaction? And it is a limited window that it'll go out via SurveyMonkey and paper surveys will collect it, compile the data, bring the data to public safety to look at, like Elena said, the pie charts and the graphs.
Okay, so that'll be the completed survey of all year forms that we've received.
What if we put available to the public to complete from January 15th through March 1st? Then that perhaps makes it clear.
Well, but
You guys gotta-
but then that's what my question is. They can only complete this during that period of time?
That was the intention.
The intent was to have some sort of end date so that we could compile the information and then have it. I understand your point, Gary, and it's well taken. I mean, I don't have a problem with extending this longer, or I don't know that we need that many months, to compile that information.
I think what I'm confused about is there's two animals here. There's one form that the public can fill out throughout the entire year.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, where are we saying you can pick up these forms? So I'm reading this like you can only get the forms between that period of time? Or is that period of time going to be the survey completion of individual surveys we've received throughout the year?
Perhaps let me say one thing. I think the intention, and we can change the period of time, but I think the intention was the survey would be available online between January 15th and March 1st. If we're going to also make paper copies of the survey available, I think we would have to have them out and make sure that they are collected. So I think by saying in an effort towards advancing the reform, we've developed an annual survey which will be available to the public to complete from January 15th through March 1st.
So if somebody had an issue on March 2nd, they can't complete this form until January 15th?
They would go through the complaint form process. So a totally different process that we already finalized.
That's what I'm trying to
Is-
figure out.
Yeah, so totally separate. I had an issue and I want it looked into, right? And that's what we have the citizen review panel for. A complaint comes in, that's year round. I have an issue. This is more like, let's take a snapshot of the overall satisfaction of the community with police. So this really could come back and be like, 95% of the people had amazing interactions with the sheriff's department. Great job, guys. If you have an issue that comes throughout the year, that's a totally different process. And that's the process that we finalized a couple meetings ago, where we have a citizen review panel for an internal investigation. So if an incident occurs and somebody has a complaint to make, that's a year round. The form's always available. You do that when it occurs. This is more an annual survey, take a snapshot. Hey, how is your overall satisfaction with your interactions throughout the year? Because it says, how many times ballpark have you interacted? So it's just a difference. So if you had an issue on March 2nd, this would not, you could also come January of next year, fill out the survey to be like, I was dissatisfied, but that would be where you would go to that complaint process with the citizen review panel.
But to Gary's point, I guess we could also do this annually and put the data out. It would be a year. In other words, it's available January through December 31st of 2023, and we would give that information out in 2024. I mean, that could be done as well. So that there's always the opportunity to fill this survey out. I'm just thinking that we could do that too.
Is it
Would it also be
typical though
helpful
for
if I were to
surveys?
add something in there about, like, if you have a formal complaint that you would like to make, this is how you go through the process. You can fill out the complaint form.
So
So-
typically surveys are a
Short window.
short window, right? Unless it's like, I just had a phone call with CDPHP. How was your interaction? And but typically surveys like this, how is your satisfaction with your overall experience is typically not based on one incident. That would be more the complaint process, which I think we have in place. So I hear your point, Gary, but I think the intention here is not like year round. And I think it then gets diluted too, right? People forget about it. Whereas, okay, it's January 15th. We're putting it on the chairman's corner. We're putting it out in a press release. We're putting it on Facebook. Hey, annual survey time. I think you dilute it by having it year round. And I think the focus of this really is an overarching, year round satisfaction
So
survey.
my final question will be, is there going to be another piece of correspondence that goes out telling folks in the community that this is a complaint form is available for them and this is how you get it?
Yeah, that's part of our agenda later, is that at the last meeting, we decided that finalized complaint process and citizen review should go to public safety and then the Board of Supervisor for approval. And I think we dropped the ball on that and never did that. Once the Board of Supervisors adopts it, the process, everything we did last time, then we are promoting it. We are getting it out there. It's going to be distributed at all town halls, through Facebook, through the sheriff's website, through the county website. We have a whole list that we agreed to last time of how that kind of gets promoted. And then we're going to have a similar conversation today of how the survey gets promoted. And I would imagine it would be a lot of the same sources, but again, with a more limited time frame.
I think DA Chaika had raised his hand originally. I don't know if did you still have a question, Mr. Chaika? You're muted.
Sorry. I'm sorry. What did you ask me, Mr.
I
Chairman?
thought you had your hand raised earlier on. Did you not?
I did. But as usual, that was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay. So then I think we're at Dave.
No, I didn't have anything to say. My hand should be down, I think.
The
Okay, then
sheriff.
that's the sheriff. Sorry, DK. Sheriff.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got to change that on there, Supervisor. But so I guess I had three questions and brought up by Gary's question. So the first is this survey going to be accessible to the public as far as the results, comments, so on and so forth? Are they going to be able to review the responses to this survey?
I don't think they should be able to review actual responses. I think they should be able to review the data. So what SurveyMonkey does is it kind of pie charts and bar graphs and says, 95% of people were extremely satisfied and 5% of people were dissatisfied. So if that's one thing we need to talk about, but I think that the overall generic data should be reported through Public Safety Committee, but individual results should be confidential. Otherwise, people aren't going to feel comfortable sharing if it's not. That would be my take. I don't know how others feel.
And I guess the next question is a two-part question. So if this survey is anonymous, what's the response if there's alleged misconduct? So if someone says, I was a victim of police brutality by any number of these agencies, how to respond to that? What's the response to that? And, how do we move forward if there's an alleged crime that's been committed? And now we find out through the survey.
Elena had her hand raised.
So, Sheriff, and I think Michaela started to say that earlier, perhaps it would be important on the first page to say that if you have a complaint of your interaction with the police, we would encourage you to file a complaint through our complaint and put the link to that on that first page, even on the survey. So I would highlight that. This is to get your overall satisfaction, but that people don't use this as a complaint vehicle. So I think that might be very helpful.
Agreed.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly, Elena. I'm just concerned with the fact that if someone does put into the survey, I'm very dissatisfied because I was victimized by one of these agencies. I feel like I was, unjustifiably, excessive use of force. Any number of different issues could come up. How does the Police Reform Committee plan on handling that information?
I don't think the Police Reform Committee was dealing with the survey. I mean, that was separate from a complaint filed. Complaint filed, we have a full procedure that would go through the committee. But I don't think that this survey, unless I'm mistaken with the group, that was going to be also reviewed by that committee. This would be data that would go to the, um, uh, my committee, which is public safety. Am I mistaken in that?
No, but to the sheriff's point, we have to designate somebody that has access to the Survey Monkey um, to even pull that data. So like when my town does surveys, I'm the one that can see everyone's results. And so it's confidential except for to my eyes. Once we designate, who that person is, then I think if they saw something like that, sheriff, maybe they send it to that citizen review panel to reach out to that person. Oh, but they're not going to it's going to be anonymous. They're not going to have, I think, yeah, because
This
even
has to
if
be
I can
separate.
see,
This has to be
yeah.
completely separate.
And I think if somebody puts something in here that, is alarming, it's on them, and we make it clear that there's a complaint process, and then it's really on them to go through that process.
I would agree with that. If we put the link in for the complaint process, it's clear right up. Here's where you go for a complaint. This is not the place for it.
We're giving them the ability to file a complaint, and that's what's incredibly important. This is a satisfaction survey. These two cannot be blended together as the same. They're not.
And I'm not saying they are, Supervisor. I'm just concerned. And I guess this concern came from Gary's question. Sorry, Gary. But, if there's an alleged misconduct, reported through a survey of my office, and it's going to, affect the view of the public on how my office conducts business, obviously, number one, we're going to want to investigate the misconduct. I'm sure the DA's office is going to be very interested in that as well. It's just a concern that I have. So just wanted to air that.
Gary?
So the survey is going to be the result of the complaint forms throughout the year, correct?
No, it's separate. Somebody may
Well-
not file a complaint that goes through the complaint committee, but they might just want to fill out a survey. They may want to fill it out to say, hey, we had a great experience, or they may just want to say that they didn't have a good experience, but it's completely separate.
Yeah, this isn't the place for complaints. I mean, you can complain on it, but this
Yeah.
is really just,
I
hey,
mean, some of these complaints could be, frankly, BS. Somebody just grabs it and says whatever. I mean, I think that we're going to have to look at the overall data that we get and then, review that.
Okay.
and Rob, I mean, who would it make sense to have? I mean, I don't want to put an extra thing on you, but you're chair of public safety. The data is going to go to public safety. So would it make sense to just have the chair of public safety have access to the Survey Monkey? And when it's completed, you just go in and compile the data report, which is
Yeah.
super easy, and bring it to the next meeting?
I think that, I don't know that, I mean, I think maybe Sherry could compile the data, give it to public safety, we put it on the agenda, and then there's a full review of it.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to handle it. I don't think that I have to have access to it. I mean, I think Sherry, that's something you could do, correct?
Sure. I could do that.
I mean, I haven't really used SurveyMonkey, so I'm assuming, you can click something that just sort of compiles it all together, and then
Yep.
we'll have a
Correct.
document.
Yep. Yep.
All right, Mr. Chaika, now you did raise your hand, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if this survey will account for the fact that by and large, only the only people responding to the survey are going to be people that are dissatisfied. So we get back 100 responses, and it says that 70 of those people had a bad experience getting a speeding ticket or complaining of an offense. Does that mean that 70% of the people of Columbia County are dissatisfied with Don Kraft? Of course, it doesn't mean that. So, are we able to account for that in some way?
So one of the things that we found when we were looking at how other agency handled it, DA Chaika, particularly in large cities, that were more likely to have different types of crimes, different demographics of of individuals, they do look at the manner in which the interaction, which is one of the reasons why we asked the interaction. And some of the surveys were discounted. We're happy to provide. I found that the Boston report was the best. And one of the things that they talked about was ensuring that the survey was sent out to people to ensure that lots of people responded. So quite frankly, you may find that if we take affirmative steps to get this survey out into all areas of the public, you may get more people to respond. You may get the person who was, a witness to a crime and felt that they were treated really fairly or with great care by a particular agency or not. But those are the ways. I think the most important thing that we as a group can do is to ensure that this just isn't blanketly put out there, but you do lots of advertising to ensure lots of individuals, younger generation and older generation. I think you're going to find people who were over the age of 45 were more likely to answer a survey than somebody who was under the age of 45 who was, unless they were upset about something. which is why we asked the age, which is also another helpful to put some of this into context.
At the very least, when and if these results are published, can we, if nothing else, clarify the fact that this is not a scientific survey and it's not meant to gauge the population of the county in terms of their satisfaction with the sheriff or the Stockport police or anyone else?
I mean, I think if that's the sense that we want to go in, then I think there could be an opening statement in public safety that reads something to that effect of what this survey is, and then go through the data. I don't know how everybody feels about that.
Yeah,
Ms. Hud- Ms.
I
Hudson
think
had a hand up.
I think you can just say, this is an informal survey that we put together and put out via SurveyMonkey to get, a general idea. And, of course it has its biases and is not, anything scientific. Supervisor Cousin.
Just, I might have missed this in the earlier part of the meeting, but is there a specific population that we're trying to get it to? Because I feel like if there's advocacy on both ends of the conversation, both people who have great experiences with the sheriff's office and people who might have some complaints, and it's evenly distributed, then we wouldn't need to say something that might delegitimize the survey. Like, this is not a scientific survey. I think if we're all on the police, everybody who's on the committee is doing the work to get the survey out to the right people, I think the survey results should be accurate.
Dave?
I would say too that I think people who are in the habit of filling out surveys are not thinking too much about how scientific it is. It's an opportunity to them to voice their experience. Maybe I'm more community minded than some, but if this came through my email or however it was being sent around, I'd jump right on it just because I feel like, oh, this is valuable information. And my own experience with the sheriff's department, that's the only one I've had any experience with, has been really positive. So I know just personally, I'd want to put my 2 cents in, because it was real, and it's not like it's a longish survey, but I don't think we need to be sort of, as Ms. Cousin said, sort of watering down the importance of it by saying it's non-scientific. People know what surveys are like, and they'll fill it out if they want to.
Kayla?
So I know originally we were talking about doing this only as a survey monkey, but I think someone had mentioned wanting to do a print copy as well. So if we do that, where will people be sending those or returning them once they've filled them out? And is that
So-
something we should put on like the cover page, like return to?
Yeah, when we do them in New Lebanon, the person who has access to the SurveyMonkey, so in this case, it sounds like Sherry, in New Lebanon's case, it was me, I would enter the data on SurveyMonkey. So the only way to kind of get it all compiled in one place is I would go onto SurveyMonkey and I would enter the paper data, and then I would just write paper in the notes section. So it was clear that these 10 surveys were actually paper surveys that were completed. If, for anyone that would only be Sherry, but needs to know kind of which was which. And then I just shredded the paper version once I had entered the data.
I think what we're saying, I think what Michaela's saying is, if we're going to distribute this in paper as well, shouldn't the cover page say, if you complete this, send it to this address?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where are we going to tell them to send it to?
It would go to 401 to
Right.
attention Sherry.
Okay.
And they could pick these up where?
So for the citizen review complaint process, we talked about having them in town and village halls, at the, county buildings, DMV, sheriff's office, 401. And again, it's kind of a limited window for that 6 weeks. So, and I think it's up to the individual towns. So, Kelly sends things all the time to town supervisors. Hey, post this posting or do this. So, it can get emailed out to all the town supervisors. Hey, here's the survey window. If you could, print a few and put them at your town hall and send out the online link via your avenues. And I think some supervisors will and some supervisors won't, but.
What do you think the likelihood that we could do a QR code? So like if you're in DMV, think about the people that stand in DMV, you're killing time. If they saw a QR code that they could scan with their phone and they could do the Survey Monkey while they were standing in line or see it someplace else. I don't know if that's technically.
It is. It's really easy.
We can do that.
We
Yeah,
did that.
it's easy enough to do it.
Yeah.
Because that seems to me that would be helpful if even if people saw the paper copy in a town hall or in DMV or wherever, and they didn't want to pick up the paper copy, they could just scan the QR code and start the survey.
Yeah.
Great idea.
I want you to take note. I am the least technical person out there. The fact that even crossed my mind, I can't even believe it.
You're
Well, I think
amazing, Elena.
Sherry
You're
and- I think-
learning. You're learning.
I think Sherry and in-house, we could easily do this online and they can set it up for that way. So I don't see that as an issue. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. So just to review, we had a few edits that Elena has.
Yep, I did.
Adding the wording about the complaint process. We're going to do online via SurveyMonkey with a QR code that we're going to post and send out to towns, as well as the paper version for anyone that wants to print it. That we're going to add wording of where the paper versions get mailed, which is to Sherry. The results, Sherry's going to go in once a year after March 1st and kind of compile the data, send it to public safety. We'll present it publicly there. Anything else? I think that.
We're updating the race section under the demographics.
Yep, race, page numbers, the typo on page 1, adding in the other police departments that it doesn't include, adding in wording about the complaint process and where the paper gets mailed to.
Sherry?
I have a question regarding is there a place on it? I didn't read through the whole survey, so forgive me for asking this, but is there a place where the time of year or when this, do we ask when this occurred? In the last 2 years? Is that what that is? The procedural justice one?
In the last 2 years.
Okay. Because it just, I think that's important to kind of have an idea of when this incident occurred. Did it occur 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago? Because you're going to have some people living in the past who are going to probably say, well, I had an incident 15 years ago. Is that still relevant today?
Now, the survey says, thinking about your experiences in the last 2 years.
Okay, very good. I see it. Okay. All right. Sorry.
No
So
worries.
can I just read the one sentence that I plan to put? I want to make sure everybody's good with this so we don't waste time. So on the front, we're going to put, this survey is not able to accept formal complaints of alleged police misconduct. If any individual seeks to file a complaint, they can file a complaint at blank, and we'll put the link to draw them to your complaint procedure. Is that acceptable?
Yes, I think also again for
Yes.
people that are not online, and we're actually in this meeting going to talk about this again, but we did also have places where paper versions of that complaint form could be picked up. So maybe we say or in paper at or contact this person and we'll get you on, something where if I'm an elderly person that doesn't do the internet, I could also access it.
Okay.
Sheriff?
Thank you. Elena, can I just ask, when you checked out these surveys, were there any other sheriff's offices that you found were involved in these surveys? Obviously a concern is that this is an elected office and, I know we all know that politics don't really have agendas, but, my concern is, someone with a political agenda would be answering in a negative manner.
I'll be very honest with you, Sheriff, off the top of my head, I cannot tell you that definitively, and I don't want to give you misinformation. Michaela might know better because she did a lot of the background information.
I'm looking in my folder right now because I had 2 links from different surveys that I had found in my research, and I pulled some questions from them. I think one of them was the Department of Justice, and then another site was it was a community safety and policing survey. I was thinking one of them might have been another like police agency, but it looks like it was the Department of Justice.
And the other one was the city of Boston. So obviously not an elected position, Sheriff. So to answer your question.
Thank you.
I'm certainly happy to try and do a little more research though, if you would like me to try to specifically find surveys done by other agencies that are elected positions.
Yeah, Michaela, that would be fantastic. I would just hate, for that to be, play any part of this and affect my, staff in a negative manner based on, something of that manner.
All right, any other questions on the survey? Okay. So Elena, you'll make those changes and get it back out to Sherry to get it back out to us.
Yep. We will do that ASAP.
A follow-up on the last meeting. So we had finalized the citizen review documents. And we were going to bring them to the June public safety meeting. Obviously we missed that vote, and then to the Board of Supervisors. So Rob, you have the final versions we adopted as a committee, or maybe Elena can send you the final versions and we can
I'm going to need all the finals again. There's so many documents.
There was. Elena, I'm sure you have that final version that we agreed to at our June 6th Police Implementation Committee meeting.
I think there was a couple of minor changes though that we caught as well. So we'll ensure that those were made. I think we caught a couple of typos and a couple of things that you wanted updated. So you'll need those resent to you.
And Elena, I have all of those in my notes. So if you want to just send that to, I don't think that needs to come back to the committee, but if you want to send it to Rob and I to just double check that all the small things got adjusted, and then Rob, maybe we can bring it to October, if not November, public safety, and then to the full board.
Yeah, I ain't going to happen in October, but definitely November. Yeah.
November. Okay, so
that's next week. I
Right.
don't know that we'll have time to review all of it.
Okay. And then we had talked about, once the full Board of Supervisors adopts it, obviously making sure that the citizen review panel kind of knows what the procedures are. I think, Rob, I had mentioned giving it to them ahead of time, and we said, no, let's let the Board of Supervisors adopt it and then get it to them. And if there's any minor adjustments they need to make. Does it make sense to get it to them though before the Board of Supervisors adopts it? Because again, they're going to be the committee looking over it, and maybe there's something that.
I think it should go to the Board of Supervisors first. And frankly, this has been such a long time. I'm not sure that the individuals that he chose, the chairman's going to have to make sure that all of those individuals are still, interested or available, et cetera. So I think it should go to the board first, then we'll go to that step next.
Okay, so we'll get it approved. Public Safety, Board of Supervisors, make sure that the people on the citizen review panel still want to be on it. If not, the chairman can appoint new people. And then once they're formed and they know the process and they've been given the documents, then I think we talked about getting it out through the chairman's corner, the website, town and village halls, county buildings, again, sending it to town supervisors for flyers, newsletters, those sorts of things.
Press release, I think, would be good as well.
Yep. Okay. And as far as the survey, I feel like it makes sense to get that all in place, but then just advertise it, you know, at the beginning of January so that the two don't get convoluted. So if this one gets, you know, approved at December full board, well, that timing might actually line up that they're both getting kind of advertised at the same time. I think we should try to do a press release on one and then separately get the other out.
What if you did a flyer for the survey with the QR code on it? So that's a lot easier to post in places.
That's a good idea. And actually, we can direct them to the police reform website where they can get the link to the survey as well on that flyer. And also, if they need a paper copy, it'll have the instructions of where to get a paper copy or something like that if they need a paper copy.
Okay. So, Rob, I know you said public safety is next week, but could we try to get it to public safety in October so we can get it to full board in November so we can actually start advertising the complaint thing in like end of November, December, because the survey is going out in January. And if we wait
We
until
can
November,
surely try, get this stuff. You and I, if we have time, we can definitely review it. I mean, it's Wednesday, so, you know, yes, I mean, I'm fine with trying to do that for sure.
okay. Elena, could you try if possible today or tomorrow to get us those final documents, and then
By
Robin and I'll turn it over quickly to get it on the agenda for public safety. Agenda goes out what, Friday, Rob?
Yeah,
Okay.
Friday.
All right, if possible, because I think that timing, otherwise we're actually, because the full board doesn't meet in December either.
No, it's fine. I have some time on Thursday if you do.
Okay,
All right, so we'll get that to you by tomorrow at the latest.
okay, awesome. All right, so any other questions on citizen review documents, survey? I think the details of exactly how can be figured out, but we're basically going to use all of our avenues possible, which Sherry is very familiar with to get everything out, do it, you know, one in November, December, the other in January. Good?
Yes, good to me.
Okay. So the only other thing that I have, and Rob and I were hoping, so that this committee, this police implementation committee, is really was meant to be a temporary committee to go over the review plan, get all of these things in step, the survey, the complaint process. And then this work should be done, and the follow-up, the remaining, you know, check-ins on the different things really should go to public safety. So our goal, and I know Rob has to leave at 11:15, is to potentially have this be our last police reform meeting, although now we do have some edits to the survey, but maybe we can do that via email. Or do you think, Rob, we need one more meeting to
I mean,
finalize?
I think there's such small edits. I don't think we need
Minor.
the committee to go through it all. We just agreed to what's going to be changed. And I think that we can finalize this. And if there's any questions, even though this committee will be dissolved, everybody on this committee has been a huge help. If there's questions, please, you know, send emails to me or to Tistria and we'll address them.
I agree with that.
Does the rest of the committee agree? Okay, good. So I just had a couple things in this document that I actually had Sherry send out to everyone, and I said the purple notes are things that need follow-up, and it's not a lot. One actually was Dave's thing about the new category, and it sounds like, Dave, on a state level that's being addressed, which is great news.
Yes, it is great news.
Okay. Awesome.
Dave, can I ask you one question? You said North Africa, not Northern Africa. I just want to
North
make sure,
Yes, it's North Africa.
thank you. I just want to make sure I was crystal clear about that.
Thank you.
There was one follow-up that Linda Mussman was going to do. I don't think, Linda, are you here? It was about searching for additional solutions for language interpretation in addition to language lines. So again, I don't think we need a meeting. I can follow up with Linda to see what that showed and then email it out to the committee. Even though we're not going to need to meet anymore, we can certainly keep email threads going, or actually in this case, probably just get it directly to the sheriff and say, hey, here's some other options for language services. Yes, Sheriff.
We're actually looking at Convey 911. It's another language line type application. We've reached out to them. We've got some information. We're not far into it, still in the infancy, but it's something we're looking at.
That's great. What was the name of it?
I believe the name is Convey 911.
Awesome. Thank you. So again, that's just kind of an ongoing thing to work on, and it sounds like the sheriff's working on it. I will follow up with Linda, see if she had anything further. Community survey, we have now finished. Those are all done. Sheriff and Jackie, at the last, I think this was back in May or June, you were just going to give us a little update on the implicit bias awareness training that you were working on, that you were going to do with in-service in the next couple months, and certified instructors in principled policing, procedural justice, and in-house training. Did you want to just do a quick update on where the implicit bias awareness training and other trainings are?
Yeah, we're still dealing with staffing issues as far as in-person training. We do our annual in-service, which is in person. Implicit bias is part of that training. Is also offered online through our Power DMS training applications. We're continuing to do that. We do have a couple certified instructors doing our best to get all the information out there in person, but with staffing issues, it's virtually impossible to conduct the type of training as often as we want and as detailed as we want.
Great, thank you. Rob, I had a note that you were going to check with Mr. Harrison with emergency management regarding reaccreditation. It said all divisions other than communications have been reaccredited, and Rob will check with Harrison from emergency management.
Yeah, and I didn't do that, so I
Okay.
can do that.
Yeah, again, this can be public safety
Yeah.
check-ins as well. Is Deputy Sheriff Salvatore on?
She was.
Maybe Sheriff, we had checked in at the last meeting regarding the mental health challenges of deputies and officers. And I know that Jackie was working really hard to make sure that you were working with other counties and making sure that you had support for your officers regarding mental health. I didn't know if there was any update there. And that was the last note that I had. Hey, Jackie. At the last meeting, we had talked about the mental health support for your officers and deputies, and you were working with other counties to try and make sure that everyone within your department had proper support for mental health, and just wanted to see if you had any update. You're muted.
Apparently, my mic's not working either now.
That is in place. We have a quad county. We have Columbia, Greene, Dutchess, and Ulster County. We've met on a number of occasions, and we have the persons who are in charge of the employee assistance programs for all of those counties, and they are cross-trained in a multitude of areas. And so we service each other in the counties, and it's in place. It's working. It's being utilized. You know, just got a call yesterday actually for someone needing some assistance, and so far it's working really great.
That's amazing. Can you repeat? You said Columbia, Greene, Dutchess, and was it Ulster?
Ulster, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your work there. All right, that's great. Well, that was it for my kind of follow-up notes on this chart. And again, Rob, at some point, maybe you and I as co-chairs of this committee can kind of get together, because I think there's some quarterly reports that are supposed to go to public safety that I'm not sure have gotten into that schedule yet, and just making sure that we have, you know, a calendar of kind of what's coming to us when, including the survey results, so we can just track it. But other than that, I don't see anything else. Does any other committee member have any other work that feels like this committee needs to discuss or do before we move it to public safety?
Not I.
I want to thank everybody very much for all their time and energy on this. This has been some great work, and really appreciate it.
It's been an honor to work with everyone here over these past months.
Years.
Congratulations, everybody. You guys did a great job with this.
Thanks, Sherry. Sherry's been great from the beginning, and
Yeah.
Oswaldo as well.
And
Yes, thank
Elena.
you.
Thank you to everybody for all of your hard work and your input. And it was a great group to work with. And I think we did a really good job at looking at all different perspectives and angles and trying to find the place where both, you know, citizens are feeling heard and our police agencies are feeling supported. And I appreciate everybody for being part of those conversations that were sometimes, you know, not as on the same page as we would like, and then we kind of came to an agreement. So
Supervisor Collins also just sent a message. He's on here too. He said from a non-committee member, he thanks everybody and great job.
thanks, Supervisor Collins.
Thank you.
Oswaldo, do we have any public comments on the YouTube? We always like to check in just to see if anybody had questions or comments. Is Oswaldo with us still? Yes. Sherry, do you have the ability to jump to the YouTube channel and just see if we have?
Let me try. I don't see anything on there.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Have a nice
Have
day.
a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.